Hey, welcome here. Hey, so let's dive right into it. You're here because you're watching this video. Mainly, probably you saw my carousel post or something on Instagram. But what I want to talk about today is a very common line of thought that applicants have, that pre-medical students have, and that's the idea of waiting until their MCAT is done and until they start prepping for their primary application, their personal statement, their work and activities things, really start focusing on that. They put all their eggs in the MCAT basket and then they shift over. They do this like shift. And I want to break down on why that's a really bad idea. I see it all the time. I had a excuse me. I had someone DM me the other day on Instagram, and they were explaining to me how their MCAT is in March, and that's when they're going to really start looking at their personal statement and work activity. But they just really need to hone in on that MCAT right now. And a part of me wanted to be like, that's a really bad idea. Like, don't do that. That's a terrible idea, right? But the other part of me is like, I can kind of nudge them and kind of tell them a bit that that's not the best idea, but they need to learn for themselves. And so that's essentially what kind of prompted this video, because I hear it all the time. And then what happens is, well, we're going to find out what happens right now. So I'm going to share this really quick document with you. And if you're someone who is taking your MCAT in 2026, you're going to be applying to medical school, upcoming cycle, June 2026. This is 100% for you. If you're applying not until June 2027, this is 100% for you, because you are going to fall into this trap. After this video, I don't want you to fall into this trap, but so many pre-medical students fall into this vicious cycle, and I do not want that to happen for you. Okay? So pay attention. This is going to be a short video, but it's going to be very much worth it for you. Okay? All right. Title is I'll work on my app after the MCAT. I have heard that so many times. I've spoken at universities before. I talked to so many pre-meds on social media. I've worked with hundreds of pre-med students at this point in Market the Mission. And this is the rhetoric that I've heard before. And this is why this strategy backfires. Okay, so we're just gonna break it down here. Number one here, the common plan, right? It feels smart. Extra space there. It feels smart, but isn't. Okay, so most pre-meds tell themselves this: I'll finish the MCAT first, right? Why does this feel logical? It feels logical because it feels like it's one big task at a time. I'm going to focus on the MCAT, and then I'm going to shift gears, and then I'll focus on my personal statement. It's one big task at a time, and we can manage that, right? They don't want to split their focus, right? I don't want to split my focus. I'll be less stressed once the MCAT is done, right? And that's the rhetoric. That's the common line of thought that most pre-meds think. They say, I'll be a lot less stressed. I can focus on my personal statement and all this stuff. It sounds good. It sounds good. But here is the uncomfortable truth, okay? I want you to track with me here. This is not strategy. This is delayed chaos. It's not strategy. It is sabotage. It is delayed chaos. Because let's talk about what actually happens to your timeline when you adopt this really toxic rhetoric of waiting until your MCAT is done in the spring to focus on your application. So let's play this out realistically. Realistic version of how your year plays out. Okay, your MCAT's in March. Okay, MCAT, bam, March. MCAT stress levels to the max. You have been studying probably for multiple months at this point. You are just like burnt out to a crisp. You're like, I don't want to stare at another question. I don't want to do another cards passage. I don't want to do X, Y, and Z. And on top of that, your anxiety is actually increasing because test date is actually getting closer and closer and closer. So you're peaked out stress. I remember this. I was a pre-medical student too. I went through all this too. I work with so many different pre-meds right now that go through this as well. Well, they don't really go through this. They don't really go through this because we tailor a game plan with them, and so this is not what they have to actually deal with. But I see it. I'm in this field. I'm in this space, right? I see it. I hear it from other people. So people are stressed to the max, and everything else is on pause. Maybe the personal statement's on pause. Maybe they've tampered with it a little bit, brainstormed here and there, but that's on pause. Work and activities is on pause. Pre-writing secondaries, yeah, right. We're not even thinking about that at this point, right? Maybe your clinical stuff's on pause. Maybe your research is on pause. Maybe you're working full-time or part-time, but you have to do that because you need financial stability. So maybe you're doing that, right? But it's mainly like MCAT, and whatever critical necessity that you have to do. It could be that you're someone who's trying to juggle a lot of things right now, that you're doing your clinical stuff, you're doing your research stuff, you're working part-time, you have MCAT, that you're trying to spin all these plates at once, that your stress levels are actually super maxed out. And of course you can't prioritize your application because you're doing all these other things. That's a story for another day. But let's just say you're MCAT stressed. That's March. April comes around. You take the MCAT, right? You're like, oh my gosh, I took the MCAT, March, whatever. April comes around. You finally start working on your personal statement at work and activities. Okay. But you realize that writing about your life is way harder than you thought. Let me repeat this. You realize in April, about a couple months before the application opens up, that writing about your life and your journey is much harder than you anticipated. You actually come to the tragic conclusion that the personal statement is kind of just as hard as studying for the MCAT. Like, it's in the same vein. You are sitting there and you're like, oh my gosh, I never learned how to write in undergrad. They didn't teach me how to write as a pre-medical student. Like, why would they? You're a biochemistry major, you're a biology major, you're a chemistry major, you're a health sciences major, you're right. Like, why would they? So you realize it's so much harder. And that's the tragic reality. Now, there is a caveat here. There's a very nuanced thing here. A lot of pre-meds that I worked with that come into the program, they'll say things like, Alejandro, I realized that this personal statement is actually really difficult to write because you've opened my eyes to how incredibly important it is and how generic and how most people write their personal statements. And bro, I was going to do that as well. I was going to write just like you said, like I'm seeing all the other pre-meds writing and how you're calling it out. Like, I was going to do that. I thought it was easy. Like, you might, watching this video, might actually naively think that the personal statement is easy to write. If that's any line of thought right now, I highly encourage you to rethink this. I highly encourage you to question that. Is the personal statement easy to write? Is it really? No. Short answer is actually no. It takes a long time to write a captivating, compelling personal statement. It's a critical piece of your application that you need to dedicate months to. Plural, months to. Months. All right, May hits. You still don't have a school list. And you are still kind of finalizing the personal statement, fine tweaking it. Maybe you had a couple people review it. They told you it was good, whatever that means, right? But you're still unsure of it. You're not fully confident on it, to be honest. Let's just be real. Your working activities, they're kind of going through the same thing. They sound like a resume script, right? Any other essays that you may need to be writing, the optional essays, yeah, they're still kind of you're iffy about them, right? But it's May and the application cycle is about to open up. If it's TMD SAS or if it's AA COMAS, we're here. Applications have opened up essentially at this point, right? June. So the primary app for AMCAS for MD schools opens up, and you're feeling the pressure. You're feeling the pressure to submit. You're like, whatever, this personal statement is as good as it's gonna be. My working activities, my most meaningful activities are as good as it's gonna be. And you panic submit. You want to be in the game. You don't want to be left outside, right? Maybe you submit in the first couple of weeks of June. Maybe you submit like the third week of June. Maybe you submit the fourth week of June, right? But you're rushing all of this stuff at this point, right? Again, you're probably juggling maybe a job, research, clinical stuff. You're juggling this stuff, right? July hits and your secondaries hit all at once. It's like an avalanche. You apply to 25 schools, maybe apply to 20 schools, and all of these secondaries hit at once. As soon as you hit submit on your primary application, it goes to AMCAS, it gets verified, then it gets sent out to schools. And these schools, some of them don't even vet for secondaries. Some of them just automatically send you a secondary, right? That's a talk for another day. I'm not going to get into that. But let's just say you get 20 secondaries that hit your email inbox within a 48-hour span. You're freaking out because some of these secondaries have a 2-week timeline. Some of these secondaries have a 3-day timeline, right? So it's like, yeah, and there are multiple essays per secondary. So it's just complete chaos at this point. At this point, you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even feel good about my personal statement. I didn't even feel good about my work and activities. I didn't feel good about any of this stuff. And now I have this mountain of secondaries that have deadlines to them. I have to cater them. I have to cater each and every single one of my essays to that specific school and make it unique to them. I can't just copy and paste, but you're kind of forced to copy and paste because you're working up against a rock and a hard place. Like you're in a bad situation at this point right now. Right? Time is money because we're on rolling admissions, right? Rolling admissions means like the sooner you get your application in, statistically speaking, you have a higher odds of getting into medical school. So I hope that you can feel right now. I mean, I'm getting anxious just talking about this, and I'm not even in it anymore. I'm almost done with medical school. But like, I hope you can get you're feeling the anxiety in this. I don't mean to freak you out right now, but like this is real stuff. This is real life, and this is why so many pre-meds get caught in this vicious loop. And it all starts with pushing. I'll get to my personal. I'll get to my application after the MCAT. It's like I hear those words, and I'm just like, oh, you poor soul. You don't know what's ahead of you right now, right? But there's good news here, okay? So let's just talk about what gets compromised. We kind of already talked about this, right? The personal statement, it feels rush, safe, generic, full of cliches, right? Instead of the real story. Maybe you go online, you go on Reddit, you look for personal statement templates, you look what other people wrote. Maybe you go on the big websites, you look at the free personal statement libraries that they have that are quote unquote award winning, right? You're looking at all these things because you're desperate. I get it. I totally understand. Oops, Google Meet is trying to kick me out. I'm still in the call. All right, let me go back here. So I totally get it. You're reaching for straws. That doesn't make you feel confident because if you're looking at all those free personal statements on the websites, like think about all the other pre-meds that are doing the same exact thing. And then you go to ChatGPT and you try ChatGPT to kind of get this hybrid approach of what you have, what you've seen, and then GPT in here. And it just turns into a mess because schools, just like you can tell when something is written by ChatGPT, just like I know you can, admissions committees, they're not dumb. They can tell when something was written by ChatGPT as well. But students don't know how to hide it. They don't know how to humanize it. Right? We don't need AI detectors anymore. People worry about like, are they going to have an AI detector? They don't need an AI detector. People can legitimately tell when something was written by ChatGPT. I use ChatGPT daily, and so do my applicants, but we use it strategically and smart, right? There is certain verbiage and syntax that GPT likes to use. It's a dead giveaway that someone used it. Dead giveaway. MCAT performance. This is the sad part right here, is that even though you were prioritizing MCAT, and I see this so much, and applicants waited, pre-meds waited till March, April, May, whatever it is, March or April, to work on their application. They get their score back and it actually wasn't as good as they hoped it was going to be. And so now they carry this stress about not only applying because they're behind in all their essays, but they carry the stress with them that they have a low MCAT score. Think about that. Think of the irony there. You delayed all this other stuff so that you could optimize your MCAT score, and then you get a bad MCAT score. Like, that's a tragic irony right there. That is sad. That's horrible. So now it's like double whammy. We're double screwed. Secondaries, again, they flood in July. They're late. People are reactive with them. Copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. They're generic. Applicants are in survival mode. The school list, we didn't even talk about that. You didn't have enough time to put your school list together, right? Folks in my program, we go a very strategic way in putting a school list together that optimizes our chances of getting an acceptance, multiple acceptances. And so things just get thrown together. I've seen applicants before pre-meds talk about they're using AI school list builders. Those are terrible. I checked one out. They're so bad, right? Because they take in your stats. And I got a very unpopular opinion on this, is that you should not be using stats to guide your medical school list, period. The amount of applicants I have in my program that are getting into top T20 medical schools, and their stats, honestly, they have no business going there. It's because stats, yes, it's important, but your stats just got to be good enough. But the problem is pre-meds, and maybe you have been obsessing over the MSAR, obsessing over stats and metrics, and it's hindering you from applying to schools that you should be applying to And it's making you apply to schools that you shouldn't be applying to. So it's like triple whammy. You've delayed your MCAT, you got a subpar MCAT score. You delayed your application, you got subpar essays, and now you like put together your school list in a subpar fashion as well. It's like triple, bam, bam, bam. It's the vicious cycle. I'm telling you, it's a vicious, vicious cycle. It seriously gets me anxious. Gives me anxious. The financial reality of this, there is good news at the end of this. Okay. I'm going to flip it here, but I just want you to be aware of this. You got to be aware. If you don't have the boldness and the courage to sit through this and hear what I'm saying right now and actually hear this and be aware of this, I don't know what to tell you. Right. But being aware is step number one. The financial reality, if I got your ears now, secondary fees, they cost a lot of money. Okay. Those ones that come in like a mountain in July, $1,000 to $3,000 plus you're going to be sitting on secondaries. My prediction for you, if you're statistically the average of the median, or the average of the mean, most pre-meds are going to be spending about $2,700 in secondary fees. And so if you're an applicant who's applying a little bit more broadly because of your stats, because of whatever circumstances you have, you can think about spending $3,000 plus on secondary fees. And you need that money up front. Med schools ain't waiting for that. They're like, you got 14 days to turn the secondary in. You got 7 days to turn the secondary in. It's a deadline. Not all medical schools will have a deadline for secondaries. Some will, and a lot won't. But the deadline that I'm talking about that I teach my applicants is that it's 14 days, even if they state it or not, because we're on rolling admissions and you shouldn't be hanging on. My rule of thumb is you shouldn't be hanging on to a secondary more than 2 weeks, more than 14 days. And if the school is saying, no, we're not going to accept your secondary until you give us our $125 and you ain't got that $125, right? What does that mean? So it's a very expensive process. So other finances, right? Your primary application fees, I didn't even talk about, your MCAT prep fees, your potential travel for interviews. Now we're having in-person interviews again, right? Like a lot of this stuff adds up here. So now we got money involved. The stakes are high. The hidden cost. A lot of people don't think about this. If you have to reapply to medical school, which is very common, that's another full year until you start medical school, which means another full year until you start residency, which means another full year until you become a doctor. That means the opportunity cost that you lose out on is an entire year worth of a physician's salary, thousands of dollars, potentially in the six-figure range. So not only are you spending a bunch of money applying in subpar fashion, but you're also losing money down the road. So poorly planned cycle is expensive in money, time, and confidence. The reason why I say confidence is because now a lot of people don't talk about this, but I discuss it in my other YouTube video. I encourage you to go watch it about the reapplication process. Is that when applicants reapply to medical school, there's a constant lingering fear in their head that's like a whisper, a voice in their head that says, what if you don't get in again? What if you don't get in again? That gives me chills even thinking about it because it's like so sad, right? You spend all this time, stress, emotions, energy, money, and there's a possibility that you don't get in again. Like how devastating is that? And that's why I'm a firm believer. It's like you do things once and you do it right. If you got to pay a little bit more money up front, so be it. I like quality over quantity. That's just how I live over my life. I'd rather do things one time than multiple times. Quality over quantity. If I have to pay extra, I'm a big car guy. And so, with cars and things like that, when you get parts, you have things called OEM, original engine manufacturer, OEM, versus like the AutoZone brand or the O'Reilly's brand. And if you're cheap, you go the O'Reilly's AutoZone brand. Now, have I bought stuff from O'Reilly's and AutoZone? Yes, I have, right? But I do it strategically. I know what to buy. Do most of my car parts come OEM, original engine manufacturer, from the actual corporation like Honda or Acura? Yes. Does it cost a lot more money than the AutoZone part? Yes, it does. Can I depend on it? And I know that it's not going to break down on me or it's not going to be a dud? Yeah. Yeah. I'm like way more assured that this part, when I install it, is actually going to work. As opposed to the O'Reilly's one or the AutoZone one, where I don't know if it's working. Um, almost done here. Now is where we get good. Okay, this is where we get things come back to life for us. So if you're watching this far into the video, I'm happy for you. What a calm strategic cycle actually looks like. Okay, so you don't need to be a stressed applicant. Like, you don't need to be that person. You don't need to be stressed out about this, right? None of my applicants in Market the Mission, stress levels way decreased, super decreased. Why? Because we plan accordingly. We plan accordingly. A strategic applicant has a clean timeline. They set dates. They know when they're going to be working on their personal statement. They know when they're going to be working on their working activities. They know when they're going to start pre-writing secondaries. Like, we have a clean timeline. We know we're going to take the MCAT. We take it soon so that if we have to retake it, we have enough time to restudy, reassess, reevaluate, and take it again before the application window opens. Right? And we finish with a strong personal statement, and it's early. Like, imagine it's like February, March, and your personal statement's done. Like, not only done, but you're like super proud of it. Like, you're like legitimately like, dude, this thing, I'm so proud of this. I'm so proud of like what I put together in my story, how I curated everything. Like, wow, it gives me goosebumps just reading it. I showed it to my parents, my mom, she like cried reading my personal statement. I showed it to my sister cried reading my personal statement. Like, imagine saying that. And just being chill and being like, yeah, I can't wait till someone reads this. This is awesome. As opposed to all freaked out and like anxious and like looking online and all this crazy stuff. Right? Imagine that the majority of your secondaries, the big ones, the big prompts are already pre-written. Like, why medicine? Why our school? Why us? You know, like these big things, the diversity essay, the adversity essay, the leadership essay. Like, some of these big ones that you know are going to be asked of you because of secondary library banks that are out there on the web, right? Like, you know they're going to be asked of you. And imagine having those pre-written, dialed up, catered to each school, to at least the ones that you really want to go to, like dialed in, super unique, not copied and pasted. Copy and pasted. Said that weird? Sorry. I just had a huge dinner, so I got this glucose rush going on in my brain right now, so I'm a little sluggish and sloppy with my words. But yeah, imagine that. Imagine submitting early in June, like literally week 1. Day 1 is a rumor, but imagine submitting week 1. It comes around and you're just like, everything's together. All right, cool. Click submit. As opposed to like staying up at like 1 a.m, like trying to do all this stuff. All right, imagine you being in July while everyone's panicking, getting this mountain of secondaries, that you put together a strategic game plan, and you're just sipping that coffee, you're sipping that matcha, you're sipping that boba, you're chilling at the coffee shop, and you're like, cool, I got another secondary. Cool, I got this. I got this. Yeah. So makes you less last minute panic, more intention behind each essay, right? And better alignment between school lists and mission. And this is something we really learn in MTM, in Market the Mission, is the school list and your mission alignment. It is critical. Optimizing those acceptances, not just acceptances. Most applicants in my program, in our program, in MTM, they have multiple acceptances. And the purpose of that is so that they can have options. So they're not desperate, they're not scarce. And so when we get down the road, we can negotiate financial aid. Yes, you heard me correctly. We negotiate financial aid. And we have a very specific system for doing that. So applicants, Premeds my applicants can essentially maximize their financial aid that's offered to them. Full rides, partial rides, 50% scholarships, 75% scholarships, and even more. Right? So this is why it pays to have quality. You got to think long-term, not short-term. The problem is we're thinking short-term too much. So really the core shift that I want to elaborate to you is that success doesn't have to feel like survival. It does not have to feel like that. It can feel like calm execution. You can be the applicant no matter what you're telling yourself right now. Like, oh, I'm not organized, bro. I can't do that. I'm always a last minute person. I procrastinate. No, those are just things you tell yourself. You can learn to be this person. And it's not like I'm saying, go out there and like do it. Like, no, if you decide to like, if you're a good fit, I should say, not if you decide, if you're a good fit for our program, for my program, and if we talk and stuff like that, and I invite you to join us, I teach you these things and I walk with you in these things. So it's not like super foreign. But regardless if you join this program or not, or MTM, regardless, like invest in yourself. Figure out how you can be more organized with yourself. Stop saying that you procrastinate all the time. Stop speaking that out loud. Literally start writing things around you and post-it notes or something like that. I got a bunch of post-it notes. I like to always write on post-it notes around me. Start speaking affirmation into your life. Start making changes, small changes. You don't need to be this person anymore. Everything in life is a choice. Almost done here. So really just a little bit about market the mission, MTM. We start strategically, not just early, okay? And we build a personalized application game plan. This actually should be capitalized because our game plan is a very specific thing that me and the applicant will go through. And we tailor this game plan. It's essentially a roadmap. It's really cool. Spent a lot of time on this. And it's like a living and breathing document that has their like job, all their obligations in there. And we sit down, it's a one-on-one live, and we talk about like their school schedule, their life responsibilities, everything basically. And we have it in this really neat roadmap. And based off that, we develop timelines, dates for everything in the application, what they need to do, action steps. It's super organized. Like literally, I'm just handing it to you and I'm saying, literally go do this. You don't even got to think. You just got to look at the document. So it's super awesome. And the cool thing about it that I love is like, it's tailored to every single one of my applicants in the program, unique to them, which is really cool. So I love it. And again, that's basically what I talked about right now. All the research stuff, the research tools, the pre-writing, the secondaries, personal statement edits, work and activities, all that stuff. Really, my guiding principle in Market the Mission is mission first storytelling. Honestly, that's what it is. That drives every part of your application, and it's not panic that does, right? For the vast majority of pre-meds out there, panic is what's driving the application. Scarcity, panic, fear. I'm not saying those things completely go away because we always are going to have a little bit of fear, a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of panic. Yes, we always are, right? That's just in human nature. But that doesn't need to be driving your application process. Those things can be residuals, but it doesn't need to be driving it. I don't want you to limp into the application cycle. I want you to leap into the application cycle, regardless of whether you work with me or not. So this is the mindset that I'm giving you right now, okay? Your old belief, listen up, because this is the last thing. Your old belief is this. This was your old belief, or your current belief, but it's your old belief now. I'll just focus on my MCAT now and deal with everything else later. No. Stop dealing with everything else later. Stop. I'll deal with it later. You're being indecisive. You're not making clear decisions. You're not putting together game plans. Let me tell you something about life really quick. In life, if you don't make a decision, life will make a decision for you. And it's generally not the decision that you wanted. Okay? Life will make a decision for you. So stop this indecisiveness. Your new belief now is my MCAT matters. It does. I'm not saying it doesn't. Okay? It does matter. It's an important part of your application. But so does my timeline and strategy. I can protect my score and my application by planning ahead. Okay? You don't need to knock the MCAT out of the park. You got to have a decent enough score. But imagine you get a decent enough score and you prioritize your application as well, and you have a sharp application and you have a decent MCAT score. That's much better than having a high MCAT score and a crappy application. And it's much better than having a subpar MCAT score and a subpar application. That's the worst combination. So you don't have to be the applicant drowning every July. You don't have to be the person reapplying because they waited too long to get intentional, right? You can be the applicant who hits submit calm, early, and ready. You can be that applicant. I know you can. I don't even know you, but I know you can. If you're watching this video and you've made it this far in this video, I know you can. You can be the one who looks back and says, I ran my cycle on offense, not on defense. Let me repeat that. I ran my application cycle on offense and not on defense. So, final send off here. If you're a current or future applicant, start building your timeline, your story bank of key experiences. So like just maybe you can even use GPT to help you. right? AI, just jump on AI and be like, hey, AI, what's a reasonable timeline for my medical application cycle, given all the things I'm currently doing right now? Like, make your own. Um, think about a journal or something like that for your stories that you want to share. Just kind of brainstorm and put them on a Google Doc or something like that. Things that you're thinking about sharing in your personal statement, your working activities, your most meaningfuls, things like that. And have a skeleton of your personal statement and working activities. Have something. Do something a little bit every single day. Doesn't mean to be this huge amount. You don't need to sit there for 20, 30 minutes. Or, maybe you do sit there for 15 minutes. I would say 15, 20 minutes. But maybe every other day, do a little bit of something, right? So if you want help, if you are interested in working with me, all you got to do is go to my Instagram and DM me the word, what I put here. I think I put something here. Yeah. DM me the word MTM2026, MTM26 on IG. That way I know that you watched this video. And yeah, I can see if you're a good fit for the program. I am very particular on who I bring on. I bring on small cohorts of people at a time. A lot of people apply. I turn away most people. Okay. That's just kind of how it is. It's very personal. It's super close contact in terms of the application. So I know all my applicants really, really well, and that's why I have such high success rates. But if you're interested in this, feel free. I encourage you, definitely DM me, and we'll see if you're a good fit for the program. But if not, all good too. I hope you got something out of this YouTube video today. And just remember what I said. And I know that you're going to do well, whatever you go. Okay. All right.